The story that I'm going to bring to you today has an interesting ending, as the body of the person we're going to talk about was found in an upscale neighborhood in Vancouver, British Columbia, and nobody knows how it got there. So the story that we bring to you is going to be Chelsea Poorman. Now, before I get started into that, I bring this story by request. My cousin Chris requested that I tell the story of this, and it is a little bit different this week. So most of the time we're doing Vanish, so people that haven't been seen again. They did find the body of Chelsea Poorman, and you'll hear about that in the story. A little bit shorter this week, but I still wanted to cover it by request. And if there's any other requests out there, just shoot me a message. All right, so Chelsea Poorman went missing, or was reported missing, on September 8th, 2020. Now, at the time that she went missing, the last person that saw her was her sister 2 days prior to be reported missing, right? And she was downtown with her sister. They went out to a restaurant and they were able to have some food and some drinks. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. And then fast forward 2 days later, and Chelsea Poorman goes missing. So, of course, the family, including her sister, are going to report her missing, and they're going to wonder what's going to happen to Chelsea, or what happened to Chelsea. At that point, she had vanished, right? So the family did everything that they could. They put up flyers. They'd even had people taking down flyers, and they were going through the media and asking that those flyers stay up, because they were making a really big push to try to find Chelsea, and they weren't making any progress, right? They did their 1 year anniversary, still nothing had popped up, and they were still trying to find her. They were doing investigations, but they did manage to say that they felt like the police might not be taking it as seriously as they should. And that might be the case, because after 20 months, Chelsea was actually found on a property in the upscale neighborhood of Shaughnessy in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Now, this is a very ritzy neighborhood, and it was very ironic or odd that Chelsea would have been found there. Now, it has also been stated by her family that there is no way that she would have been able to walk there from where she was at with her sister, because she just didn't have the mobility and wasn't capable of walking that far, according to her family. So the question then becomes, is how did she get there? Now, the authorities have also come out and said that it was likely that she had died on that property and that the body wasn't moved. Also, they had said that that property had been under construction for a long period of time, so it would make sense why that body wouldn't have been found, and was later found 20 months later by contractors who were going to go in and fix some of that house. So, a couple of questions that I have for you folks. Okay, one, how did she get from point A to point B, and when did that happen within those 48 hours from when she was with her sister to the time that her sister reported her missing, right? Now, obviously, there was calls that were made, and she wasn't answering those calls, and you would have to figure that probably happened a few hours after she was downtown with her sister. But again, that's just my opinion and speculation, and I would say that that would probably make the most sense, but anything could have happened during that time. And realistically, anything could have happened between the time that she was with her sister until the time that they found the body. Obviously, there's decomposition, so coroners can go back and say and give a rough timeline of when she died. But was the body moved? Authorities don't seem to think so. But again, were they really on top of it? Second thing I want to hit is, were the authorities really diligent in their investigation of what had happened? So did the authorities do everything that they were supposed to do in the investigation of this case? So again, I don't see a lot of information on the internet about this case from the authorities' perspective. Everything that I found has been from the perspective of the families. Now, I will state, obviously this is just my opinion, but there doesn't have to be a lot of information that's given by the authorities. That's not their job to release that to the public, especially if they don't think that the public's at risk or in danger. I fully understand that. But according to the family, they didn't feel, and this is me just ad-libbing a bit, that the authorities really did everything that they could to find Chelsea early on. And I would agree with this. If they went 20 months and then they end up getting found by contractors, what was the gap in between? And how have we not come up with a suspect? Was this a random killing? And is the public in danger, specifically females, right? Because this seems like it might have been a targeted attack. And we also know that there's a lot of stories in Vancouver about Indigenous women being targeted, right? And you can see the history of a lot of missing people in Vancouver, and this happens quite frequently. If you go back and look at a couple of my other stories, they were also based in Vancouver, British Columbia, and a very similar profile. So do we have somebody else that's running around and doing this? This is a very real possibility, and this does create a lot of fear. And I obviously understand from an authority's perspective, they don't want to create panic and fear. But for the folks that are by themselves, or the folks that are going to meet their sisters, or the folks that are walking downtown by themselves, do they have something to worry about? And that is what we want to essentially have a answer for, so that way we know people are safe or not safe. Now, obviously, there's always deviants running around, and you should always be concerned for your safety, even when there's not somebody out there, just to be safe, right? And that's an understanding as well. But this case is weird to me because there's not a lot of information, like I said. Then she ends up somewhere in a really ritzy neighborhood. So how did she get there, and why did they bring her there? Now, did they know that the house was under construction? How would they have that inside information? And how did they just get away with it? Because to this day, we still don't have a person of interest or a suspect, at least to my knowledge, of somebody that committed this crime, right? So those are things that I want you to unpack. I think that at the end of the day, there wasn't a lot of focus put on this case for one reason or another, and it's not for me that anybody needs to answer to, but it is something that I see with these missing cases, is that sometimes there's just not a lot of effort, and maybe there is on the back end, but because of the way that authorities release information, that we as public, or me as a true crime person, doesn't get to see that. It might appear like they're not doing their jobs on the back end, or they might not care as much as some of the higher profile cases. And maybe I'm wrong. So if you are law enforcement, leave a comment down below and tell us how that works, because it would definitely educate a lot of folks out there that don't see a lot of information on cases like this. And these cases go cold, and then it's a very sad prospect. So with that, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you like the content that I'm bringing you, hit that subscribe button down below. I am going to do a video for New Year's, kind of just outlining some of the stats that we've done in the first 90 days of this channel being live. We've done some great things as a community, and I want to keep that going. Share the video out as much as possible. Let's get it out there. Let's continue to build this community. And if you have some story ideas, if they're vanished, or even if they're solved, or if it's something that you would like to see that I tell the story of, I definitely would love to do it. And if you want to collaborate, we could do that as well. If there's information that maybe hasn't been covered on some of the other stories that have been told, would love to hear about all of that.